Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. We are live. For some reason, this thing about live, it gives me a buzz. It gives me a tick. It brings me on. It gives me life. I feed on it, and I'm having to enjoy it every moment. Every moment, I'm enjoying this. As soon as it's like fixing a clip. Yeah, clipboard, sound, and then lights, mic. There we go. So anyway, we are live. Very important program. As you know, now the TNN TV media empire, we they talk news, where they make the news. And therefore, we are really, really proud. And every time we lead, we are trailblazers in this business. We've trailblazed, and we are really, really happy that others are taking the onus, of trying to make the difference now with society. Today, Fambule on the 27th of August 2022. Me where they talk to one, I mean, in Prince Emil Chroma. And of course, on the TNN TV media empire, it is not strange as such for always have a conversation with Fambule. And I'm very, very proud of the work that we do. Whilst we don't come alive and we see a few people on begin to join, we know say this show get for be heavy. And this is not my show, by the way. But of course, we will get down to the bottom of it very, very soon. I just to see whether I can get the link quickly for send them to few people. Then we go help for share them. I want to send them to few people. Then yes, I get a video. I'm going to play one or two videos in today's program. So I just want to get the link quickly while we develop the show. So family them are the big. Now let we share them. People them get for Kanyeri, not peoples. People they get for Kanyeri, what would they talk about? Did you hear me say, would they talk about news, where they make the news? Now, this platform, we took the lead in breaking news and telling Salon people and that certain things the way they happen, it not called for. We need to say actions should not be taken, but in the absence of law and order, in the absence of a judiciary which is supposed to be independent, then something is wrong. Remember, we talk about state capture. As soon as we talk about everybody else, was into the fray of things and beginning to understand, which is a good thing, because also we believe for say information, na power, where people understand about the choices the way that they make through information where they come from channels such as ours. It is a good thing. And in this light, we say, we are trailblazers, and we've been trailblazing the scene for quite a period of time now. Now, Fambulem, suffice me to say that we issue them, then are perennial. They remain perennial. They keep their core. But we cannot relent. This is the thing. We cannot relent that because these things that they happen, that we can't take actions for mitigate the circumstances around these issues the way they occur. For now understand what I mean. So today, once more, the 27th of August 2022, me and Prince Emil Chroma. So, where Parliament be the direct the foot by certain issue them, una know what we do. Because we're not beholden to anyone, except the Sierra Leonean people, if we are beholden. So we come out, we say what we for say. We collaborated with others whose thoughts and minds, the process as a whole, it chimes, so that we provide information for we fambulem. And as soon as we do that, people then became conscious. Because why? Information is power, the information, the work. If things then they happen, and we need to hold people them accountable, in we own case, for hold the perpetrators of whatever they happen accountable, then that means things will continue for happen. If on the side of government in itself is not acting as a deterrent by holding accountable people the way they commit crimes against the people of the Republic of Sierra Leone, then government in itself is complicit. And this needs to stop. It's not been done in any case of malice, and we need to say government intentionally they avoid for doing things there. We need to say so. the judgment is upon the Sierra Leonean people for make. We just they highlight the situation and the circumstances. Fambulem, not too long ago, we don't talk about them a lot, but it gonna take a while for let it fade away. Because normally some people they wish for let it fade away, but we see new development. Because for kill person, not an easy thing, you know. You can't just kill person and get away with it. You can't just use the word for drive and divide people on the basis of them and us. It doesn't really work that way. It is on this basis that a few, this is not the third week, not too long ago, and I say the blood of Sierra Leoneans fallen, both police officers in active duty and civilians who also rather their blood matter. But in some certain quarters of our society, then try for play down the death of civilians and try for tell we that the people that will perpetrate the violence were civilians without an investigation. People like the Africanist press begin for come up and say, now let we hold on a little bit, along with other media houses, that in the absence of an investigation, you cannot just be saying what you say or what you wish for let it happen. And the things that we see was very, very divisive. But now we don't begin to see new evidence don't emerge. So as a consequence of what happened 3 weeks ago, we know this was nothing based on a knee-jerk reaction. It wasn't spontaneous. It was as a consequence of many things we've been on to happen. Political leadership stifled. They're not the one that will not comply or complicit with government. They were stifled. In the case of Kamarimba Mansari, one of the outspoken critics of the His Excellency Julius Bio in regime, outspoken critic. Okay, we see some part of the opposition allegedly in bed with the government against the people. This is a heinous crime. This is the epitome of treason. But at that now we see there is so much more. The political class, the professional class, people from all background views, Sierra Leone Bar Association, the academic staff na Furabe College, the Association of Journalists, MPs, all in kind professional people there seem for they either in line with government or just keep quiet. Remember, in times like this, when you keep quiet, you are complicit. That's what you are. Because either or, there is a way, we can go forward. If government cannot act as a deterrent for certain issues, and many things happen in the past, and the knocking left for let we re-echo that. Re-echoing it, they make we enemy to certain people then. But we say that these people are only few in numbers, those that eat off the crumbs that fall off the table. Oh yes, that's true. We've seen the looting of the treasury. We've seen the erosion of our democratic progress that we've made over many years after the Civil War, in which our compatriots lost their lives. We've seen, the compliance of undemocratic principles in tandem with government. I keep the use the word because it's so necessary and it's so obvious. This is where we are today. We've seen massive sackings of Sierra Leoneans. Remember statistics Sierra Leone, and that was not the only. So the things that we say are fact. And if people then take umbrage to that, they need for come and justify or try for can tell we how justifiable those actions were. That a group of Sierra Leoneans can just be sacked nilly-willy, and they are part of the social economic fabric of the country, and they are citizens for goodness sake with their own rights. But yet, bread is being taken off them, whereas it's the duty of government to provide bread for its citizen. And if you can't, government, because we know say you can't continue for provide job for every Sierra Leonean, then your responsibility is to create the atmosphere and not to take the atmosphere away, suck the oxygen in which the people feed on. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot going on, but tonight's show is not my show. But as the founder of this platform, this noble platform, I'm happy to have in my midst a gentleman who has made waves. And I will introduce this gentleman shortly. But just before I introduce him, I want to family know say this now the TNN TV media empire. The empire when are the friendly news outlet to Sierra Leonean people. The empire where Sierra Leonean people and they listen to and re-echo the thoughts of this, because the thoughts of this program it can only be indicative of the thoughts of the vast majority of Sierra Leonean. So I'm asking you to continue for share as I want for introduce me guest shortly, and please remain tuned to this platform. Don't touch that dial. Yes, oh yes. You know, even with the big time media, they can get a real loop which is not intended. And I can confess to una because yeah, all we do this now, a sacred place in which the truth is of importance to us. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise you that Chernoh will be on the program. I promise you guys that Chernoh will host a program on this platform. I promise you that Chernoh will be a regular feature on this platform. And it has not even happened yet. And it's not only Chernoh, there's more coming because we will reshape the platform for fit the times that we are going in. Remember, these are perilous times. Remember, from the beginning of the program, I talk about perennial. We issues them, they are perennial, they continue. And we business now for tell people them what these issues are so that together we can find a way for move away from the issues there which are not helping Sierra Leoneans. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, can I introduce Mr. Chernoh Alpha Mba of the Africanist Press? Chernoh, welcome to the show on Saturday. It's 5:51 on my side in the UK, and I believe you just across the pond from us. That's in the US. And like I say again, it's good to see you. And I guess the Leoneans are not going to be disappointed today, will they?
No, thank you very much for providing us this wonderful platform and opportunity for make we able interact with Salone people them, both home and abroad. Um, One of the reasons why we appreciate this and the fact that as we repeat to people them, um, now the fact that we don't arrive at a very critical moment in the history of a country where the alliances in the country and people and determination for change and the determination of a few individuals to hold on to make that changes they not happen don't become too obvious. And in the process, there's an active effort for that for prevent people them access to information. I don't know beside the sound they come up. They like music in the background.
Yeah,
So
carry on, Chernoh.
yeah,
Sorry.
so I just want to thank you for providing us the platform, and I want to also join you for assure with viewers, people with the follow we, that this is going to be a regular program on Then and Now, TNN, TV, and platform. And the fact that it don't become much more urgent for we, apart from just writing, for make we able to get direct conversation with the people, so we were able for to get feedback and direct questions and relationship with Sierra Leoneans around the issues that will matter as we move into the elections. A very important to make we get what we call sufficient political understanding and education and conversation. Nangu provide that clarity there. So every Saturday, we hope for the Bringuna Million direct conversation with the people and part of the process. Now for make we discuss some of the issues that happen as Salone or other parts of the world also as they relate to Sierra Leone or as they affect Sierra Leoneans. And with the hope, say collectively, we'll always share ideas in terms of how to make this Emil Chroma. Next time, I believe Namiwan will come now and begin just roll with the conversation open. Part of what I want for do now for the share my ideas around governance, around democracy, around social development, around national development, and any other subject where we all decide say crucial for our own development, both as individuals, as communities, and as a country. And as Sierra Leoneans in the diaspora, we need for also help for build this global conversation of Sierra Leoneans who are concerned about what is happening, and also help for tell other people away don't become much more concerned about Sierra Leone, how they for understand the country, and for make them know say there are voices as well that should be listened to, independent of them, celebrated individuals in the society. Everybody can become an influencer, influence development in a country, regardless of which profession you get, regardless of your state of education. We are all stakeholders in the country. Every citizen is a stakeholder of Sierra Leone. And because we are stakeholders, each and every citizen in voice can count if you want to make them count. So this process, this program is part of the endeavor for make citizens' voices, count. Ordinary citizens, our voices should count. So this is not part of Then and Now, the new creation. and then provide with the opportunity for me to use this as a wonderful platform, especially at a time when many people, including the traditional media in Sierra Leone, the radio stations, our friends, many of my friends in Sierra Leone in the media, some of whom are even calling me or used to call me a mentor, will no longer interview me. And not because they're not going for Dua, now because the people the way they work for, or the people the way they represent the interest that that is high above them, is preventing them from doing that. So for we don't study Sierra Leone and observe Sierra Leone and look at developments and interact with all these politicians on the ground and other players on the ground, we know what to deal with. And this is how we characterize the situation as an absolute state capture, a situation where the available space, democratic space, has been constricted. The government will tell you, say, we get free, no journalists not in a jail, no opposition politician not in a jail for the work. But yeah, in a situation where journalists do not need to be put in jail if they are receiving subvention from government. You don't understand? But that are different conversations we're going to forget in the future. So, but as we move along, we will define the topics and the issues that we want to talk about. So for today, the intention is to initiate a conversation around voter registration. We'll start for the electoral calendar. Elections begin with voter registration. If I remember, a few days ago, the Electoral Commission, the institution responsible for conduct elections in Sierra Leone, called politicians and government people them into a meeting where they launched the voter registration process. And by the 3rd or the 4th of September, or the 3rd of September, registration is going to start. Basically, the election calendar will be put on. The moment they start for register people and for vote, the election don't start. Although the election may not start now, but then at the official beginning of the electoral calendar, people can go for register and for making it able to participate in the election, either as a candidate or as somebody we want to vote for somebody for representative. So you cannot participate in an election either as a candidate in that election or as a voter in that election if you not properly register. And registration, we go for underline, properly registered. So the purpose of this conversation today, I want to talk about what I understand about voter registration, the importance of proper voter registration, and why also necessary for make each and every individual citizen of Sierra Leone, whether you're inside the country and outside of the country, for take voter registration very important. And even now, in the midst of everything where they happen, why we think say the primary thing we for put, apart from the daily bread, because when you wake up in the morning, you get breakfast, you go for anything for it, and then when night come, you get for go to bed and sleep. But in the middle of these important things, food and sleep, one of the most important things we will pay attention to, especially from September 1 right up to the end of October, will be the question of our participation in the elections. And we cannot participate in that election either as candidates for elected office or people seeking to be voted into elected offices, or people that we want for vote in the election if we not register. For some people, registration is not new. For many other Sierra Leoneans, registration is going to be the first time. But even if you don't register before, in 1996, in 2002, in 2007, in 2012, in 2018, there is also need for every time for make people become educated around voter registration or election-related issues. Why? Because the laws governing elections are being developed. The electoral process and the electoral system itself developed over time. When you take from 1996 to now, you find out, say, there are many changes that have happened in the electoral process. How we conduct elections, how we vote, and the kind of technology or material we use in elections also don't change, including even the name of the institution where they conduct the election. First, they call her the Independent National Electoral Commission or Interim National Electoral Commission, Teukanto National Electoral Commission. Now we don't count to Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone. So these changes, not to just name, it reflect an idea, a vision around election and democracy itself. So as citizens, we need to get conversation around NTR, because the more politically educated we are, especially around democratic questions like elections and our participation in elections and the rights we get for participating in elections, and with our responsibility to make sure we get a clean electoral register, nothing is necessary for make we discuss. And what are the laws then we govern how the Electoral Commission for conduct election, how we say for participate, and what for observe in the process of registration. Because observation of elections is not just going to do with the day we they vote. Even the time when they register, we can forget party agents, polling agents, community representatives for day for make sure that people are able to register. It's very important. So I want to open up a discussion around, for start this week program, with a conversation on elections. Conversation on elections, because if we dissatisfied with the government, the constitution say the only way we for choose government or people that will represent are through elections. You're not talking through protest. You're not talking through violence. You're not talking through any other method other than democratic means. They say every government we can have power without elections, the whole world not going to recognize you. If I remember in 1997 or 1992 when coup happened, they begin to say, they put pressure on Mother Bio for conduct election. They force them. 1996. Now under threat, violence take place before we get an election. Now we got to argue around whether that election was free and fair or democratic or not. But the fact of the matter, one important thing that's an important reference to underline is the fact that the elections of 1996 did not happen in a peaceful environment. They happened under guns, people firing guns, Bintumani 1, Bintumani 2, pressure, protest, demonstration, determination, civil society, everybody, activists. Now, they gave us scold, and a question of where they had to scold Madabi on the neck and had to even give him money to leave the country so that civilian government would start. 9 months into that, boom, another coup happened, 1997, the May coup, AFRC. We see again the whole world, including United Nations, ECOWAS, everybody, Britain, everybody can blockade Sierra Leone, give sanction, Fete, and Rev Sojamane, put Tijan Kaba again. Okay, so after that, we don't get smooth elections, regardless of the disagreement. We don't get election 2002, Tijan Kaba do second term. Then in 2007, the opposition win and kind of power. We can always get arguments and disagreements over elections. There are also methods to address that without violence. So this conversation is about how do we as citizens exercise that right to peacefully choose a government of our own choice, and the constitutional guarantees where we get for exercise that right, and how we for protect and defend that right. And also what are the responsibility of the institutions that in the country for make sure say that right to vote and to be voted for as guaranteed by the constitution is protected for every Sierra Leonean. So I want to welcome everybody and thank those who participating in this or listening to this conversation. And this now the first straight conversation that I'm attempting to have here with you, straight up. I've never done this before, but now it's also a practice. Mr. Delan, how to begin talk to Sierra Leoneans and now directly, because I think it's necessary, because sometimes when we write, we are writing for a group of people, but it's necessary to make we come again and begin talk about some of these issues. And why I decided to do this, because I realized, say, there's a serious vacuum or space where don't exist. And because the professionals, lawyers, academics, them bookman in the country, journalists, them, they are deliberately, most of these people, because of the levels of interest now in the country and how them don't become compromised and tied to the system in place, then prefer for bring meaningless conversations right now instead of talk about the issues that will matter. At this time, we're not for the any other conversation at Sierra Leone and outside of Sierra Leone among Sierra Leoneans other than the question of the elections, how we go prepare with people then for participate in the election, how we could generate massive voter turnout. Because the more people participate in an election, the quality of governance they improve in the country. We rate a democracy by the way how people understand the electoral process, how serious people take the electoral process. So for a country like ours that has some kind of experience now with elections, beginning in 1996 to now, since one party ruled on to now, at least we voter turnout for exceed 90%. Not only that, people are able to vote again. The total number of valid votes should be above 95% or even more. So that kind of conversation that we get right now, how do we ensure that every individual that is qualified to vote is able to vote easily, peacefully, and then go about their business? So that's one aspect. Secondly, for able to make sure say we reduce the invalidation of votes, which we call void votes. So that kind of conversation for the happen right now. But when I say for the last, since August 10, or even before August 10, we could say since June 20, almost there has been tension in the country since the spotlight that we brought to Parliament when we discovered, say, Parliament be the try for pass a law, a new elections law, way for make it difficult for people to register. Because that law they be intend for bring what they call the national identification number into the electoral register, which means if you not get an NIN, you're not able for register. And if Parliament been passed that law, many people in the diaspora and back home not able for register. So when we see that, we highlight, say, this not being a deliberate plan by the government and the opposition members in a parliament for pass this law as secret. And why would we say that? Because we know, say, from April, they plan for do that. We've been they pay attention up to May when I can go the bill. The MPs are not talking about, and then begin hold the pre-legislative discussion on June 20 for pass the law. We bring that to people's attention. Everybody pay attention for the first time. Most people testify, say, they don't ever pay attention to Parliament the way they did between June 20 to July 27, when Parliament finally say we don't bring them at the Luma, then we will pass the law again. That, in my own experience, that was the first time a bill don't take that long in Parliament in discussion, because we don't agree. The parliamentarian try all kind of way for pass the law, among other dangerous provisions in the law. The NIN was one. The question of proportional representation was there. The question of giving the president the power for sack the electoral commissioner, all of this other dangerous legislation. So we look the law, we say, this law, murder bill, now then parliamentarian, they want to give murder bill second time. That make them want to pass this kind of law. Because no member of parliament in the right senses, the day when you receive that law, they say, for a protest, for say, we know they participate in parliamentary proceedings in that kind of law, because the law was not in the interest of democratic participation. Any law where they try for make it difficult for people and for register for vote, now anti-democratic law. So we don't get that discussion there. Basically, we force the parliamentarian and they made it able to pass the law. In the end, the parliamentarian then pretend say, now they make the law not pass, especially for the APC parliamentarian. Then begin even insult we. But even when they're not able to pass the law, when I find out say from July 27 to August 10, now less than 2 weeks. The time when they holler about this, so when they want to cow this law in the parliament, Mother Bill left the country first. He go Kenya, he go Paris, he go, they walk around. And that's how they back plenty distraction when they go on at the country. Police, they go and arrest people and they say police arrest, police brutality, LAJ, they don't hold LAJ, they don't carry and go, they don't scrape in head, they don't detain them. Anybody go see LAJ, they don't detain them at Benghazi. We even hear they say they don't talk, all of this make people not be the focus on parliament. That when we arrest the bill and ring bell from parliament, say, Nakamu, parliamentarian, they want for pass law, we go make one register. And that 10 day, in fact, the LAJ talk today. People, they don't forget about themselves. Including the parliamentarian, the leader of the opposition at parliament for the APC, been a tweet for LAJ. But since we arrest the bill, so which means all of that discussion we make for arrest people and for make that Sovula provocation, say, people here, people there, whatever, comedy where they carry to make people focus on. They were doing that deliberately for make people not understand what it mean they go on. And really, in my own investigations and judgment, there is no way the parliamentarians will tell you they were trying to prevent they not be know about this situation. But that done they in the past now. Now we don't move from July 27 when that bill was supposedly killed in its original format. And now they talk say they not remove NIN, they not remove all these other things away for stop people and for register, which we can see. What in Parliament and the court not able for do, now in the soldier man there and the policeman there begin for do. And what is that? From nowhere, we were made to understand a faceless protest has started in the country. They make everybody sit on those 2 days. Then in those 2 days where people sit on, the members of parliament, they now be sit on also. They mean sit on a parliament, but they even try to pass other more dangerous law there inside parliament, including a law way for prevent people and not for able to form political parties in the country. On Wednesday, when the people then come out in the street for demonstrate, Parliament be the meet that day, then get an agenda for do a constitutional amendment and for pass the new Political Parties Act, way much more dangerous than even the public elections bill, where they don't turn into law now. And they not ever tell them about that because we not ever raise alarm, we not ever discuss, and so parliamentarians did not find it necessary to educate their people. And up to now, we don't know whether that law was passed or it was not passed, because the final day when the for take a vote on some of that those 2 amendments, that the day where the violence take place and then people were killed and civilians also die. So since August 10, what are we hearing about? The president, they accuse the opposition of trying to stage a coup. Now the coup where parliament and the president be one for do against the treason where them be one for commit by making an amendment to the constitution without following the law, without following the procedures of amendment secretly, where they're not able to succeed for DOA, we stop them not for DOA. They then in return accused the citizens of Sierra Leone, who they believe were going to be affected by their own effort to commit treason in parliament. They accused us, people in the diaspora, we stop them because when they say diaspora, we stop parliament and stop Madabio, not for pass law, not for change the constitution and change the electoral laws then for prevent people then for vote, because that treason them they try for commit. Abbas Bundu and other and the parliamentary leader there, the APC leader, NGC, all them wire. They may don't organize a coup in parliament, and that coup was going to ensure that they amend the constitution through the back door secretly, and then put a dangerous requirement in election law to make people enable to register. And then people will be affected by the NIN. Now people then are Freetown, people then are Putloco, people then are Cambia, people then are Makeni. Basically the north, northwest, and western area. And many of these places are basically places populated by potentially, as majority of them would be APC voters. So if let me pass the NIN, most people will not able to forget NIN are people there within the north, people there from Mashimbi to Makali to Matutuka, Magurka, Masanga, and all the mountain hills, and they go up to Benebugoaun to, take Kana, Batkanu, Kana Putloko, Mateboy, all them places, and they know people do not get NIN, they don't even get ID card, they don't even get birth certificate. So, but they are citizens. They are willing to register and vote, and they know who they want to vote for, and they've been significantly affected by Madabio and in policies and the failure of the government, the corruption, and all of this. So all of those people who do not have NIN, we are going to be affected. And when we look the NCRA registration where it happened last year, many of the people in the Southeast, they were encouraged to register. Many of them have NINs. And you see, even at Parliament, the SLPP members of parliament, we are insisting that the NIN should be part of the law. It should not be removed. And this challenge, the APC MPs, the way they talk say, the NIN, even the APC and SLPP MP, they all not be wanted. But what did we see? We saw, for example, SLPP members arguing and trying to rationalize why the NIN, the National Identification Number, should be used as the criteria for voter registration. Why they insist on that? Because they know their own region or places where they believe they have support, people who inhabit those areas have been largely registered by the National Civil Registration Authority. And they are also conscious of the fact that people in the western area, in the north, in other places, they no register. So you find out, say, the registration, nothing way very much important. Very much important. And because it's very much important, we therefore draw the connection between the Stop Who We Stop Parliament and the violence that don't take place, and how that bill the way for being affect how Parliament and the incumbent party been trying to commit treason. We stop them from commit treason. Because we stop them from commit treason, now they are in return accusing people who they wanted to exclude from voting, from registering to vote, as being people who committed, who are trying to overthrow the government. Basically, they accuse voters now who they want to exclude as people that don't commit treason in the country. This has to be understood, because when we understand and find that we will know why it's important for we for register. So we can't talk about all them here, but I just want to open this conversation and ask Una for share the link that we have and invite more people to the conversation. I'm hoping that we're going to get phone calls. So we'll take a short break for the time being and make Una reflect on the broad overview where I don't give right now. But what I want to talk about is voter registration, how voter registration relates to the current violence, and why the protest, it's not coincidental. In as much as we are dissatisfied and we know people engage right for protest, how this protest was designed, if I don't understand, was designed deliberately to make sure that it will coincide with the period of registration, and that it was the voting parliament will be able to do with the NIN and the other election law, where we stop parliament for not for commit treason. Now parliament is accusing the citizens of Sierra Leone who will have been affected by the public elections bill from participating in the election, including the candidates who they fear in the election and the voters who they know will vote for those candidates that they fear. They have accused them of treason. It's no coincidence.
So family, muna don hear the first part waiting Mr. Chernoh Alpha Mberger for say, and it's so revealing, it's so refreshing. You know, the truth shall set us all free. And there are people in shady quarters who know the truth. And what we speak here is the truth. So I believe say this show has been planned for do and short, but I believe say it will go long because it's so important for educate the masses on issues the way they come, especially voter registration we want to talk about. And it just begin for develop that. So you get two videos that we want to play today, and I believe say this show will go on for something like about 3 hours, and we see where it all end up in. But let me play the first video, one of two videos where Chernoh Bago like for show the general public.
Let me fix it. We don't settle. We don't settle down. This now, one nation is here for the value.
Very interesting tip, and we go left. Of course, people get different views. To me, the APC chair in the parliament seem very inconvenient. Very inconvenient. It's written all over him. But that's my view, and I know they speak for other people. But Chernoh, we get program today. Go help for analyze that. Chernoh, it's over to you. You know where you for me again, probably towards the end of the show. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you very much for showing that clip. We think we'll be one for introduce that, because that event, if this is your first time looking at that short video, now the event will mark the launch of the voter registration process, official launch of the voter registration process, where members of the opposition leadership in parliament, and the general secretary or secretary general of the caretaker committee that I call the illegal 21-man committee of the APC were present. And why important? Two things. In the first thing, I think that is relevant to our own conversation, which is that for making una understand, say, the elections calendar has not been changed. There was every possibility that because of the violence, if the government be really serious, then seriously really in a coup be one happen on an insurrection, as in the color, or because or terrorists then don't invade the country, then they try to overthrow the government, and we can get law and order issue or an issue of instability. The first way government do say we suspend even voter election. That's what we were anticipating. But maybe they not go that road there, because we had already talked about it. We've been already talking that they want to do. So then decide, say, if we then do that, then we shape, it could be like, oh, they were too predictable. So they even gave up the curfew, the illegal curfew that they declared. So why would I take note of that video? Now the fact that even though violence don't happen, protest people that don't die, the government is still going ahead with the election as the calendar remains effective. So which means on the first week of September, I think September 3, the registration of voters will start. So now there has been rumors or a side conversation over the fact that the Electoral Commission want for organized registration a different way from what we used to, which is when they say registration don't start, the whole country registration day. In 1 month, every district, town, community, we're supposed to get a registration center, we don't get in center, registration they happen. But now there is discussion that this 1 month when they don't decide to do registration, they will do registration 2 weeks now the southeast, 2 weeks now the other region. Basically, they register 2 weeks now the APC, SLPP their own area, then the other 2 weeks now the APC their own area. So where the Electoral Commission start for this, then they take all the people and then go force. If they decide that the north, then they start, or na the southeast, who say them believe say SLPP day, they register day for 2 weeks. When they done, then can now that's this area where they believe say na APC stronghold, they register 2 weeks. We never get that kind of method of registration, but so far there has not been an official commitment on paper, as far as I know, except if I missed the statement, because we've been looking for that statement. But it's a conversation that we've had from both members of parliament and other people that were concerned. And there has not been no member of parliament or anybody, including the opposition parties, for not ask the Electoral Commission for making them be clear in terms of how they intend to conduct the elections. Because the conduct of elections, government say, will they develop rules like that. Any rule or regulation that should govern the conduct of elections should not be in conflict with the election laws and the Constitution. So this kind of process of doing is suspect in the sense that if you decide, say, to go register for 2 weeks now, suppose you can now the north or the northwest or the north and western area for register, then something else happen, say natural calamity or protest, or you even make it difficult for people for register because you don't already know, so I don't register more people in this region, this other region, I don't want to make people register, so I go make it difficult. So that 2 weeks, they sometimes, if now 1 million or 2 million people for register, we target for make sure now 500,000 people only for register. So we'll not forget past that. And there are ways we will frustrate people, make the line there long, make few registration machines, or the machine and get problem where you go for register, they're going to slow down the registration for make sure, say, if now 1 minute or 2 minutes for me take for register, they take 10 minutes for register one person. So in 24 hours, you will accomplish less than half of what you've been supposed to register. So these are all techniques. And at the responsibility of our politicians, our representatives, for help put the necessary pressure for making the National Electoral Commission or Electoral Commission conduct the election, conduct registration in a fair way, because they not bring all this difficulty. Not forget, say, we just done for harass Parliament and the cabinet, because the Minister of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice represent the cabinet, for making them not pass that law for prevention and for register. So up to now, they not give up the idea, say, they will make sure say we not register. And one way they don't do enforce, now for cause this violence don't happen, they don't take police and soldier man and they go and harass people, they arrest hundreds of people, they lock them in a police cell for nothing. Now you see even Abacha Street, they don't scatter people from their areas, and so you see, say, the people away for become affected by the NIN, the National Identification Number. Now then also they don't target. They don't scatter people in a Freetown, scatter people in the northern part of the country. Any southside and consider as in opposition strongholds, opposition area there, that then become affected by the protest. Karina and other places. And then people there again. Naturally, if the law been passed, not been whole parliament made them no pass that law, they been passed. These people are when they call terrorists so now. Where they don't say that they're not the insurgents, not the coupists, that they also for be affected by the NIN, they're not able for vote. So you find out, say, from August 10 to now, the police brutality no more they talk about. And people are waiting a cell, Medcaden, they don't kill Evangelist Samson. People are waiting for they make audio then right now for telling us when I come out for register, they all don't hide. They all don't run away. Una councillors, some of party organizers and zonal leaders, Mami Queen them, cheerleaders, and these groups of people where came gather they all don't scatter them now. All man they run, they hide. Some people don't left free, don't go, they're afraid. So this reign of fear and terror that they introduced in the country, for prevention, for register. The same thing with the law, where Parliament for being passed, and when a parliamentarian they all set more, they know you talk nothing. In fact, Parliament go holiday as the violence they happen. So the day where the violence happen, the day Parliament lock, they're not going for return until after the date of registration, after October 4, if I remember very well. So which means Parliament decides, say, they don't let food with the trouble. In fact, when I get conversation, even in the diaspora, there are people in the diaspora here who have been discouraged. You get people away to tell people in the diaspora now, so I don't go salon for register. Then they discourage them for go salon for register because then they tell them, if I go salon for register, then they arrest them. Because they don't accuse diaspora people and say that they're responsible for this. So you will have less diaspora people who will willing for go register. In the country again, people concerned about their safety and security and afraid police brutality. So they're not going able to turn up for register. In addition to the fact that the Electoral Commission get the type of count technique they know for register. Because by now, when they talk about the machines, when they don't count it, inspect the technology of voting, make sure it's sufficient, materials and done for make people able to register, and sufficient number of registration centers. Now with the unofficial figures and numbers who they see say Kenema even get more registration centers than even Freetown. The East and the South get more registration officers and registration centers recruited, registration officers, and more than you have in areas considered opposition strongholds. So basically, when members of parliament will be one pass that law, who've been telling them to pass that law, then they try to give Mother Bill second time. Then they use the police and the army and violence and distraction and deception and dishonesty for make sure say we're afraid, we're not able to understand what they happen, so we're not able to register. So the reason why we try to initiate this conversation, because now we same one again initiate the conversation, try to stop Parliament may not pass the law, but they not give up still. Which is why when the violence happen, they all don't hide. They know they talk to us about registration. Where registration is being discussed, it's being discussed by almost individual people. But right now, councillors, council representatives, parliamentarians, therefore they all over the place with megaphone and microphones for the announcement now for prepare for register, educate now for register. Everybody, it should be the conversation. All like when they work, when they say top up day na free time. After sell, don't buy. After sell, tell money. After sell money, that should be the conversation. About when I get ready for register, when I for go register, that should be the conversation. And it should be the conversation coming from the chair ladies, the mommy queens, the zonal leaders, the councillors, the parliamentarians. But where are they? Everybody's talking about security and safety. You even get APC lawyer and say they go to police for go see their own APC people waiting at detention. They're not able police station. Then look at the video when I see the leader of the APC in parliament and the secretary general of the caretaker committee. They're not see this all a problem for them. In fact, then they are happy with the thing. They're happy. Why SLPP? SLPP then get right for happy because in the south and the eastern region, no violence not take place there. Nobody's been arrested or detained. Nobody's running away. Okay. In fact, few days ago, we see the head of the Petroleum Regulatory Agency, when a SLPP supporter, Mother Bio supporter, Fatima Bio supporter, go na the south, go na a petrol station, open the petrol station, they serve 3 liter free to Okada riders. When I see the video they pass. Not to say he tell the petrol station of Ghana, instead they pump the fare to Okada riders. I think it was in Bo or Kenema, one of the places. Do I'm giving 3 liter free. Basically, they are giving inducement to their supporters in the south and the east to encourage them to register because they understand the registration, not in life, not in right, they get for exercise. In Freetown, in Makeni, in Magurka, in Matutuka, Makali, Mashimbi, Kalangba, and all the other places that they will talk about, that did not Tego put local. If you see community, if you see meeting about registration, it's not more than 50 people. And this back now, people away decide they will do them on their own. So basically, you have been left alone by your political leaders. Why? Because the APC, as we keep talking, has no structure. Since the illegal decision of Fisher, we take the party and hand them over to a parliamentary leader and Alfred Peter Conte and divide into 21-man committee. The argument number way, this one pull one letter, press release, the other one pull letter. They want it that way. Your political leaders, especially in parliament, have disarmed and disabled the opposition from participating in the elections. And it's very important for us to know that. And the reason why, because diaspora people, some of them are being told not to even go. I don't hear 2-3 people and tell me say they are being discouraged. And we know the people where they try to discourage some of these individuals from going with the idea that when I go salon in the arrest tonight. But you see, the situation at salon now is we have to also force the conversation to the extent that now you see CNN and all these international media institutions now, they raise the human rights question. It is important for people of Sierra Leone. We cannot, people and not to the international community, get to go take we hand and vote and take we hand for register. It's our responsibility as Sierra Leoneans to register and to vote. What we can ask our friends of Sierra Leone is to make sure that they impress upon the government of Sierra Leone the need for make a safe environment for people and for register. And this is why you see the issue of Sierra Leone is now in the international media. It's been highlighted and discussed. Putting on your own part and responsibility is to make sure that you overcome that fear, that terror that they are putting on you. The reason, if we allow this for continuity, we're unable to register, by the registration done, they will not be worried anymore. If Parliament been passed that law, the Public Elections Bill has been there with the NIN, I guarantee you this protest not for be happening. If it want to happen, they will have stopped it from happening. They have the means to stop it from happening. This trouble will result. So that don't mean say people do not have genuine reasons to protest. No. We have had those reasons to protest way back. from the time we Mother Bill take policeman and go to parliament and bulldoze parliament and impose Abbas Bundu and remove 10 members of parliament, the court decision, members of parliament then get the opportunity for even protest. But what did they do? They took their own party to the court, dismantled the entire APC, from the diaspora executives to the national executive, to the regional executive, the district executives, the constituency executives, the ward executive to zonal executives. All of the structures were disbanded by a court. And the party is now left with no legal structure. APC, party of over 60 years, one of the largest parties you find in Africa or in West Africa, if you no one go too far. One of the oldest is now in 2022, in the age of technology, where people use technology for organize. Easy is a political party in opposition, even though they have the majority in parliament. They are a political party with no legal structure. What you have is an illegal committee appointed by a court. The same court will remove APC MP, then we will have been the protest against. At the same court dismantled una party, the entire party, from the diaspora to the national level, at all levels of the national structure, and handed it over to half of it to the parliamentary wing of the party, the other half to other politicians the way they're outside of parliament. We then don't decide, say, they don't mind if APC lost the election of 2023, Madabio can continue as long as they remain in charge of their party. Some of them think they are young, then go, once they want to get rid of our old leaders, which is not a bad thing, but they for declare and say, we don't want Anes Kroma, we don't want Samura Kamara, we don't want all these old leaders and they all for go, but they should be able to compete openly in an open platform. They therefore use Madabio and the court and anti-corruption for accuse our political party leaders then, and they use the court for making them dismantle the party on the arrangement that they go allow Mother and go help Madabio for rig the election and remain after we Madabio don't go, we don't thief money, you don't commit all these atrocities. Then go can now, then say it will take power again. So they're not going to hold them responsible for this crime that we don't commit. That is part of the thing. Because there is no reason why a political party leader, an opposition leader, will go to a celebration of an event when at the time you have a member of parliament, Mohamed Bangura, you have key party organizers like Merke, and hundreds of party supporters, you don't even know the total, are already in detention for several days, had no access to family and lawyers. Not only that, the entire party itself is called a terrorist organization. So a reasonable party leader, a correct party leader, a genuine party leader will say, I am not participating in any national event or activity until our supporters and members and leaders who are in detention should be released. The law provides that you don't go detain somebody for more than 72 hours without charging the person to court. Many of the people have remained, they are detained in places where their families do not even know. And una parliamentary leader, for example, is a lawyer, very of long standing. Any lawyer we don't be lawyer for more than 10 years is competent to even be given excuse to practice in other Commonwealth countries. Because the General Legal Council's provision say if you a Gambian lawyer, you don't practice in Gambia as a lawyer or Nigeria or other place. If you are 10 years post-bar, you are qualified to come to Sierra Leone and also practice under their own arrangement. So you cannot have a lawyer and a 3-time MP, 15 years in parliament to the level of becoming a deputy speaker. Now, if we say APC leaders of the past are corrupt or they were bad, there's no way corruption happened under the Ernest Kubai Nkrumah, where the parliament was not part of that corruption, especially the leaders of parliament, from the deputy speaker to the speaker to leaders of government business who were there. Because they passed their mining agreement then. You cannot talk about Sarah Rutile, ADAX, Sokfin, African Minerals, and all of those bad mining agreements. If you want to talk about bad mining agreements under the 10 years of Ernest Nkrumah, we are members of parliament, people who were heads of mining committees, transparency committees, accountability committees, finance committees, and deputy speaker of parliament, who did not preside over the passing of those laws. So how can you accuse Because if you want to use corruption, if not corruption that they use for exclude that people, how can they excuse the leaders of parliament who worked under the APC at the time? These are just why I'm talking about this, because we have groups of thieves in our politics. So it's either you are a small thief or you are a big thief, or you are all big thieves, equal thieves in power, or waiting to be in power. So why do you have to that competition of stealing when they try to cancel each other to the extent that now we get ordinary people who are losing lives? So why I think it's important for us to have this conversation, because when I get for step up as citizens now and begin for encouraging our families, if we want to get rid of murder bill, for understanding, we have members of parliament, and many of them, including some of our political leaders, they know how murder bill go. Because if murder bill is out in 2023, the nature and manner in which they don't sell and betray them party leaders and party comrades who are aware of some of this betrayal, they have no future in the politics of the country anymore. They have no future in the country. All the journalists then, when I see say don't keep quiet, don't encourage this, they will not want murder bill to go away. All the civil society people, they don't keep quiet, both opposition civil society and ruling party, they don't want murder bill to go away. The politicians, they likewise. Those politicians who have worked with murder bill to frame up their party comrades, who accuse them of corruption unfairly, join them for overthrow the party, then they will never want murder bill to go. They will only want murder bill to go if not, then go be the next people in charge. If they realize they are not going to be the people who will take over power after murder bill, they will prefer murder bill to stay. Now, this is not the thing where greed they cause. Greed and selfishness and opportunism. This is what it does. So because they've sold the party, they've betrayed the party supporters, but when are not sabi that, they will prefer murder bill to stay in power. They will help him to make sure that many of you will not be able to register, will not be able to vote. Because murder bill has realized that if you allow vote, the amount of supervision will take place, we don't go monitor the election during voting, no go thief during the ballot box, no go change the vote. The only way to make sure say we now we want to vote against her, we potentially go likely vote against her, we are not for register. Now if we not register, now we're not going to vote against her. So this is why it's very important now, regardless of the fear when they put toner, make una begin, number one, demand say voter registration una want for participate, and vote and registration will happen at the national, across simultaneously nationally. If at the end of the 1 month next season they will register everybody, so then we'll say we'll register, we'll go extend the time, because that's what was done in the past. So there are other issues we'll talk about, the voter register, voter technology, but I just want to emphasize the need and importance of one register. Make una now begin listening to some of these MPs, them members of parliament, political leaders. Some of them do not want murder bill to go away, because murder bill going away, their own selfish political ambition will not be realized. Many of them, they are thinking about 2028, how for take over power. Murder bill again, it will help them, because he is cornered. He don't lose international favor. He don't lose national support. He never get the national support in the first place, because he win the election last time with less than 2%. From where kind of power and trouble no more. Every day na violence. Every day people they die, killing people, stealing money, dividing the country, unfairly victimizing people, accusing opponents, using all these state institutions and laws for suppress people. These are not good for democracy. So now, murder bill, then don't know say the only two way stand between them and being held accountable for stealing money and stealing money and stealing basically the lives of people. Now basically the question of power. The moment they are out of power, they are basically going to be held accountable, and they are trying to do anything and everything to make sure they do not leave. And opposition politicians who also want to control their parties are willing to help him to do that. And this is no longer secret. I've asked myself, why with all this violence and harassment of supposed APC supporters and leaders and organizers, constituency or zonal chairmen and all of that, your political party leaders at the party level and at the parliamentary level have remained quiet and silent, really silent. And they are not raising the electoral register as a starting point of the of the discussion. Now the police brutality, now no more we talk about. So I want to basically say that tone and then encourage people for make them a priority for come out and register. Get yourself properly registered. Now we don't understand, say, what they are trying to do is to use the NCRA database as the foundation. And the reason why they want to do this now because they don't already announced a census result. This census result tend for claim say more population don't they na the south and the east than we have in Freetown. The population don't reduce na Freetown, it don't increase. Population don't reduce na the Utin and things in the APC area them. It don't increase na the SLPP areas. So they want to justify the statistics of that census. And one way for do now, if you open up the registration at Freetown, then if the amount of people who qualify for vote can register, it pass the total number of residents at Freetown. You see the disgrace? It will be a disgrace for Malam O. Usman Sanko, when ahead of the Statistics Sierra Leone, a disgrace to the entire statistics, a disgrace to even the whole government. And all of them people there, we don't support this. So they have a reason for make sure say the result of the voter register for be in tandem with the fake census. And if they not get that thing the way they want to, so it means Madabio is out of power. It's basically out of power because the moment they allow registration, fair registration and clean registration, and the clean conduct of elections, people able to vote, there's an overwhelming majority of Sierra Leoneans who do not want the current state of affairs. And the government knows that, so that's why they're using institutions and laws, procedures, and regulations for narrow people and participation in election, including for decide, say, any candidate where they know, say, if you contest, he will likely beat them, and the fair way to exclude the candidate. And you know the famous case of Samura Kamara already that we've been talking about or mentioning in the passing. But some of your opposition politicians want that because then also they see, say, if power changes, and they are not in line because of the levels of betrayal that is now known by some of their party people, they think they do not have a future. And indeed, they don't. So then, say for their own selfish interest and for willing for prolonged Madabio, instead because the prolongation of Madabio's time of office is also increasing their own chances of remaining at the helm of affairs. We not for allow the politician and selfishness and the desire for protect their selfish interest for derail the peace, happiness, and stability of the country, and your own individual happiness and individual progress. Now, this make una need for understand the significance of the vote and why it is important to register. Why it's very much important for make una register. So I don't know if we have Prince on the back end, but I've been going for take a pause here and see. Anyway, since my technician don't take holiday for us, make I just step up one thing and maybe add what I need to add here is the role of members of parliament, because now since we've been emphasizing members of parliament all these last couple of days or I would say months now, since June, we don't put parliament on the spotlight, and they always highlight how they fail to educate the people. And we think that we need for continuously emphasize that. And why we need to emphasize that, because at this point is the role of members of parliament, and like I say, council representatives. Members of parliament and council representatives for educate people around the need for conduct, for make them prepare for participating in the election by preparing them on how them for register. And that role also include from a parliament for don't tell the National Electoral Commission for disclose the total number of registration centers across the country. So we're able to compare between the North and the Northwest, whether the registration centers are evenly distributed, equally distributed. And where they are not equally distributed, it's also the role of parliamentarians to ensure that NEC conducts the electoral process according to the requirements of the law. But where are your members of parliament? They've gone on vacation at this crucial time. Councils, likewise, council representatives, councillors, district council chairmen, that should be their role for educate people. And voter education is the responsibility of political actors and different institutions in the country. But we've had less voter education for the last couple of days. What we've been looking at is basically, the technician not show up.
Yeah, sorry, you're badging inside your program. I mean, just testing. I'm actually on the road.
So you cannot
continue, please. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we cannot have a free and fair election, and we're not going to participate in an election without voter registration. And I'm one for see if there's a way to open up the call line. But I think since these are the first program, we don't summarize the need for elections and the need for voter participation or voter registration, and at the same time, the role of the MPs. I think the next point we need to emphasize is the fact that the Electoral Commission and decision for include or for use the NCRA database is outside of the law.
Chernoh, hold your thoughts there 1 minute. I just caution people in the platform. And to be very specific, Mr. Mohamed Kalon, Bo, this platform, we try for keep them decent and try for entertain decent people. Entertaining decent people does not mean that you can't have a dissenting view. Of course, that's what we encourage. You don't need to be in line with what the platform stand for, but you therefore choose your kind word and how you participate in the program. If you don't agree with Mr. Ba, there's a certain way how you can conduct yourself, but you've been extremely rude on the platform. We don't have no intention for kick you out, but you self need for go back on your thread. This is extremist behavior. But if you can't contain yourself and continue for do that, we'll have no choice but to kick you out of the platform. So try for be, how do you call them, constructively critical. But so far you've been very personal and extremely rude to the host of the platform. This is not tolerated in no shape, sense, or form. So if you continue, we'll have no choice but to kick you out. Yeah, Chernoh, continue, please.
Yeah, like I say, for just recap the highlights that I mentioned, we have to understand, say, the purpose of the violence and the police brutality and police harassment of APC organizers or opposition organizers, or especially people in the western area, people in the north, the northwest regions of the country, where violence has taken over. All of them people they are basically the effort for dispersed voters. They try for scatter so that we're not able to participate smoothly in registration. Already, the last 2 weeks, what we've been talking about are the level of atrocities, the amount of atrocities where the police don't commit and crimes. They don't put fear in the minds of ordinary citizens who are resident in these areas. And at this, what the public elections bill with the NIN, now with this, the NIN for don't do, for make it impossible for people they call terrorists now, Freetown and other part of the north, not for able to register. So because they're able to pass the law, when I see now say, with the protest and the police brutality way don't unfold, there's every effort for make sure they suppress voters from voting. And we say, Mother Bill, now two techniques or strategy they intend for use for rig the election ahead of the voting. One is an effort to suppress voters, for make sure say people who will likely vote against are not going able to participate in the election. And one way for do that, now for be introduced the law way for make it difficult for them to register. That one day we prevent them from doing. And the moment we stop Parliament, the last day we Parliament stopped that, I think July 27. Now from July 27 to August 10, almost 2 weeks, in 2 weeks after we stop Parliament, violence happened at the country. Now since August 10 to now, almost 3 weeks or 2 weeks down the line, what we don't see? Police brutality. Many of the APC organizers that we're going to talk about today, now the 27th of August, September 3, almost less than 10 days now, we go say. When they begin for turnout for register. And most people are not even run away in their own communities. And these are all APC people, APC organizers. To the extent that now
they don't get in it.
they're not threatening. So you find out, say, it's already difficult for people and for able register. This now intentional move for suppressed voters in opposition strongholds, not for able for register. So each one of we get the responsibility for encourage people and for begin register and for also put pressure on the Electoral Commission for making them register each and every qualified voter across the country, not just in the South and the East. And registration should not be rotational. It should be simultaneous, not nationally simultaneous across. They don't for say we go register 2 weeks now this region, then we can register 2 weeks now this other region. No. It should be a holistic, simultaneous national registration of voters. Not to district by district or constituency by constituency or region by region. No. Because if you do that, there is still an intention to exclude people from being registered. And people get the right for being registered. People get the right for participate in the election. So there is also an effort on the part of even certain people for discourage, especially the diaspora. I've had conversations of how people they tell, and these are opposition supporters, opposition politicians, they will get the intention for make Mother Bill continue. Now they discourage their own supporters or people then from the diaspora not for even go register because then they threaten and say, where you go, they arrest you. So people are losing interest in going to register to participate in 2023 because some of these politicians who are propelling that fear or who are helping to carry out that distraction and deception have their own 2028 agenda. They want to prolong the suffering in the country for their own selfish interest. They serve the country. What I'm struggling for is that every individual will qualify for vote, we want for register, should be given the opportunity. Every candidate should be allowed to participate in the election, and nobody should use the law or institutions crookedly for disqualify any citizen from voting or to be voted for. We not for do that because it's a multi-party environment. Multi-party presupposes that people should be able to compete and should be able to put themselves forward for election. And those who want to vote should be able to have multiple choices. Not to Mother Bill go decide would I go compete against her or would I for vote in the election. And that is what he's trying to do. Unfortunately, he is doing that with the assistance of people in the opposition. We don't see the first way happen at Parliament for me to not pass that law. From the time we stop them for pass that law, the country don't in crisis. Like say, well done, Fed don't start in the street. So we stop Parliament from committing treason because we wanted to give Mother Bill a second term by changing the law in the wrong way. Without the knowledge of the country, they were trying to commit treason because we stopped Parliament from committing treason. Parliament in turn and the parliamentarians and the executive branch of government decide to accuse the people who stopped them from committing treason as insurgents. They called Sierra Leoneans insurgents and terrorists because we stopped them from passing a law that would have terrorized people from not voting. Now they are terrorizing people from not participating in elections. We not therefore deny them that opportunity by making sure you turn up peacefully, demand that you want to be registered. You can do that peacefully. And it's your right to do that. And our responsibility is to call on people across the world for make sure they protect Sierra Leoneans' right to vote, their right to participate in peacefully participate in elections. If Mother Bill believes that he has delivered on his record as he's claiming, why is he afraid of a free and fair election? Why is he afraid of competition, fair competition? Why is he trying to impose a candidate of his own choice on the opposition? These are the questions, and because he knows they don't fail. Any leader who has failed to deliver is afraid of a fair election. Any leader who don't work very well, no go embark on this, begin kill people all over the country, use police for summarily execute people, assassinate people, because you don't want them to register, to be afraid. And in the South and the East, you see even they give people petrol Okada riders were given free petrol a few days ago. Sovula, who they were mocking as part of the distraction, been a whole meeting to encourage people to register. In the south and the east, they are holding mass meetings, encouraging people to register. In the north, in the western area, people have been terrorized. They are running away because they think police are going to arrest them. Bundles of people, dozens and hundreds of people are in prisons. Your political leaders in parliament, by now, parliamentarians, if they go constituency to constituency for look, would they in a cell, police cell, take account. They would have held a press conference and announced the total number of detainees. They know it one. From that small press conference when they hold a parliament with a statement that did not even say anything, they've kept silent. Your parliamentary leader was there celebrating with the ruling party when hundreds of the APC supporters and leaders and organizers are in prison. They're called terrorists. So I want to really close this conversation here. I'm hoping that this brief conversation, what is the essence, the takeaway here? One, when I impress upon our MPs, the members of parliament, tell them you want to register. Two, if you are in the diaspora, you want to go and register, don't be scared by your party people who are telling you don't go, who are trying to discourage you. Number three, encourage people in the country to be courageous enough to make them try for register. And most importantly, or above all, let us, all of us, amplify our voices and call upon friends of Sierra Leone, the global community, and Sierra Leoneans at home and abroad. Make we begin ring the idea of registration into the minds and ears of our people and demand that each and every qualified Sierra Leonean who want to participate in the election should be given the opportunity to participate in the election. That's no responsibility for doing. It's a constitutional right. So that this I want for left with, and I want to thank people that came in, and I want to continue this conversation every Saturday, and I'm going to make it much more participatory.
Well, let's get some analysis now with Alex Vines in London. He's the Managing Director of Ethics, Risk and Resilience for Chatham House's Africa program. Great to have you back with us, Doctor. Discontent has been boiling over for a number of reasons in Sierra Leone, including a perceived lack of government support for...
Yeah. So I want to thank Kuna for that, and also, like I said, the discussion will be available here for those of you who missed part of it. Nake will come back and watch them. Next Saturday, we will continue. We will also bring the same kind of conversation, maybe continue the voter education, and also emphasize the need for democratic participation. We do not need, with the experience we'll get with elections now, I strongly believe we can vote a leader out of power in a peaceful way. Any leader that's unpopular, we can vote that leader out. And this idea that, because some of your political leaders have also lied to you, make I correct it before I go. They tell you that then get on the TRC say, or they don't make this undisclosed agreement, say any president will carry for do 2 terms, come on, you go. That's a lie. There is nowhere that agreement exists. And say they even like you as in the international community and the one mother bill for stay. No, the international community will not impose a dictator, or they will not support the continuation of dictatorship. If people then decide, say they don't want that dictatorship, the decision is going to be solely dependent upon Sierra Leoneans and their determination to get a government of their own choice through the ballot box. They can do that. The constitution say when they vote you in, you get 5 years term of office. After that 5 years, you seek renewal of the mandate, and they can vote you out. And many of these leaders, now make you see, say ECOWAS, they talk about ECOWAS. There's a reason why ECOWAS will want to support the current situation of Sierra Leone. Then many of the presidents in ECOWAS do not want this notion of first-time presidents for become a phenomenon. It already happened in Ghana. If it happens, there's tendency and possibility to make Madabe a first-time president because he has failed. He knows that. All of this difficulty now because he knows it don't become difficult for him for even rig the election, motive the election. So when he's voted out in 2023, then you see a phenomenon don't start. And that will be scary for many of these West African leaders. So, which is why you see Tunis, who is the ECOWAS Speaker of Parliament, a member of the SLPP, he went to Guinea-Bissau. In fact, a week before the protest happened, in Guinea-Bissau, he met with Mbalo Beer before the protest. And when the protest happened, then just go take the man by the collar and bring down a few. He can't talk the right statement here. He cannot even read English. No matter being party, they're all two equal in sense. So you find out, say, he basically just endorsed, without knowing the implication, what these SLPP politicians and their allies wanted him to say to terrify Sierra Leonean voters. So they wanted to give the impression that the international community or ECOWAS support the marginalization of voters. But if you look among them, even when they were talking about ECOWAS, when they talk about third term, when Alpha Conde and the people in Ivory Coast and these other politicians were talking about changing the constitutions in West Africa for third terms, many of the ECOWAS never said anything. So at the presidential heads of state level, some of them protect each other. When you have one term in Ghana, you have another one term in Sierra Leone, before you know Liberia, another place. So they are all scared. But citizens now, with democratic process, don't they develop with new technology and new forms of organization, democratic organization and open democratic tools of open democracy, it's possible to make sure that leaders who do not have the support of the people will not have it, the people can make it difficult for them to rig elections. And that difficulty is what Madabio is faced with. Madabio and Parliament, see who say Parliament, we don't know who passed this law. With cell phones and with technology, internet, we look them, and say this stay away don't can Luma, it's not possible. So we bring Parliament and the government and Luma, they want sell, they're not able. What did they do? That scatter, they're not scatter the market. None of that protest. The protest, now we say people then get an Luma for sell, then say there's no way, all man scatter, that scatter. From that scatter, I see Fed not happy. Because the way they wanted to sell the election, through the use of legislation and institutions for rig the election for Madabio, narrow the space where he will have a competitive advantage ahead of the elections. We made it difficult. Now the reaction, we bad man they meet up na Luma for sell business, this one will buy, this one will sell. Now confusion they come inside. Nothing happens so. Because would have been nothing say they get interest. Juman business, where Juman then come for trade, all man would not say we get commission. Now the commission, wait a minute, stop there, don't forget. Now it don't cause effect so. Violence, now ordinary people die, don't come on inside ourselves. But the most important thing is to understand that you have the power to make sure that this dictatorship does not continue. Democratic power, constitutional power. And that power can be exercised by registration and participation in the elections. Please, let us make it a duty as citizens to talk to our fellow citizens, to impress, to call upon the world and other people for help, put pressure on Madabio, let him allow people to register. It's their right. When I also tell our members of parliament, if we truly elect our people, then we are committed to our people, our constituencies, our political parties, we believe in our political parties, why are you not fighting for the registration? For smooth registration for our people. We're not asking our members of parliament. Ask your parliamentary leader, why has he been silent? Why he thinks it's necessary for him to go launch an electoral process when many of his party supporters and party organizers in the communities, the constituencies, the zonal leaders are being chased away, run after, then they hunting animals. These people do not think that's a problem. So that is what I want to close with. We have to struggle with these dishonest politicians and don't give them a break. Make it so that they live up to their duties and responsibilities. They choose to be leaders. They choose to stand in front of you. Because they choose to be in front of you, they have to represent you. They have to do things according to your own interest, not to their own selfish interest alone. So when I impress upon them the need for making them help the people for register, those of you who want to register, please don't be afraid. From now on, we will begin raise these issues continuously to the rest of the world, so the world knows that your democratic rights have been violated. People are trying to make it difficult for you to participate in democracy, because when you freeze people's right to participation in the democratic process, you are opening up the country to more dangerous situations, including to what we are witnessing. And this violence is serving these dishonest politicians. They're happy. They don't want you to register, really. They fail to do it through law. Now they're using violence to do that. Don't make them achieve that. You can do it without violence, without fighting. You can do it by demanding that you want to register and cast your vote. Now, with responsibility for protect, we right to vote, right to participate in the electoral process, right to be voted, to participate as candidates. And every citizen should be able to fight for the right of another citizen to participate in elections, even if they not belong to the same party. It's a right that every Sierra Leonean should be given the right to participation. Now we write again for defend the rights of any other Sierra Leonean, because it could be us as well. That is my own principle stance. And I have my own disagreements with these political parties. Those of you who know me know that for 20 years, I've gone across regimes from Tijankaba to Aneskroma to Madabio. I want to have a situation where the quality of governance in our country improves, where our democratic rights are respected, where even if we have thieves in power, we should not be afraid of going to our country. We should not be jailed or arrested or imprisoned because political leaders in these parties think the only way they can stay in power is to muzzle people. So that is what we will have. My struggle is a struggle for the constitutional right of Sierra Leoneans to participate in the democratic process, for democratize the country, improve the quality of governance and democracy in the country. So I want to stop here and thank you all. And I say, see you next week, next Saturday, in the same discussion. We will make a much more participatory. People will be phoning. We wanted to do that, but I think the technical man is already on the way. Finally, I don't know, but so I want to close here, Mr. Prince Kuroma, and thank you.
Yeah, Chernoh, many thanks for your effort at enlightening Sierra Leoneans. It's a great deed, it's a noble deed, and it's bearing incentive. It bear dividends because most Sierra Leoneans have become conscious. What you not know yesterday, and do know on today. I go ask you for just carry on sensitizing them on the voter registration for another 5 more minutes when I go get access to.
Okay, yeah, because I see some people and they still call for.
Chernoh, if you hear me.
Yeah, I don't hear you. I see.
Yes, I just say. Yeah, go on.
No, I see comments. People really want to make phone calls, so I don't know we capacity today to do that.
Yeah, we go avoid the phone calls.
It would be good to have.
We will apologize. We will apologize to. Okay, I'm mute.
Yeah, for improve the quality of participation, I will suggest we encourage people to participate next week, so we're in a more better position for encourage participation in this conversation. But what I want to assure people is the fact that I will continue to hold these conversations every Saturday, so that as the electoral calendar they go on, and what we intend to do also now we're going to open up communication lines so that when registration starts, where every center that people are encountering difficulties, they'll be able to inform us. So we'll provide this registration monitoring of the registration, live monitoring of the registration, where we will be showing areas and reports of people encountering difficulties, because we want people to register. People have to register so they can participate in the elections. And that me want for encourage. So we try to put the same way we would collect information about missing persons and extrajudicial killings and human rights violations. We will also ensure that we provide people with the necessary reporting center where they can report difficulties with the registration process if they encounter it during the period of registration, the entire month of registration. So we will know. So we will do a comparative assessment whether there are, where difficulties are. Because if we do not encounter the same difficulties in SLPP strongholds, it should not happen in other areas of the country. So that again is something where we all, including those of you who support, I keep giving my ideas are for free. I say these things out because I want also political parties where they copy with ideas or listen to we, please take these ideas. Make sure in your constituencies you set up monitoring mechanisms to monitor the registration process and take notes of difficulties that people are encountering in registration centers. So we will do a comparative assessment of difficulties, whether it's easy to register in a particular part of the country and more difficult to register in another part of the country. That is one way we can improve the experience and quality of the registration process and make it smooth for people. Our job and our role is to make sure that people are registered, they are able to participate, and make the registration process smooth. The Electoral Commission, electoral staff should know that we are going to monitor the elections, and monitoring of the elections begin with monitoring of the registration process. Once we get a good election register, we know we'll get a good turnout in the elections. So key is to have people come out and register. And not only that, make sure we police or monitor and observe the process of registration and people's experiences with the registration process and the time is taken. And possibly we will also note the number of people that are registering on a daily basis in one part of the country as against another part of the country. These are things we have to do. It's easy to do too with new technology. So that I want for encourage each and everybody for do. And I want for sign off now. Although I don't say you try to get the technology fixed up, but left with me, I want to end the show here today until next week.
No worries, Chernoh. I think you can. Yes.
Once again.
Once again. Sorry about that. Yes, sir.
Okay, when you ready,
Come see you. Okay. Not too bad, sir. Yourself? Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Yes, Chernoh, many thanks. As you can see, as usual, everywhere where there's plenty of life around it. And this is not just a sign of it, even in my private moments. But I want to use the opportunity for say thank you. Of course, we go do better next time. We will say this to the many fans, then we go and ask questions. And next week, definitely you will be taking questions and they answer the many questions them. And you can take your leave now. I will handle the rest. But again, once again, so much thanks, brother. And God bless you. Okay, Fambulem, effectively, we don't come to the end of the show. This live program is going to run for a while without any action at all. Now, so the system been designed for the hour we're supposed to run for. And I left studio and not design them for loop back into something shorter. So even after this live program don't end, when I go notice that it's still the run as a live program without any action. But I go ask every one of you for kindly sign out now because the program is just going to be blank with no real action, even though it's live. Many thanks for your support. Many thanks for your criticism. And they talk about constructive criticism or criticisms. We don't have to necessarily agree. But the idea is, I believe that we all want the betterment of Mama Salone. So if your views is differ from mine or the opposite, let me try and see whether we can find common ground. Okay? For disagree and agree, it's a good Sierra Leonean virtue and it's a good international, sort of virtue in terms of people with common and similar aspirations. For now, can I say goodbye to everybody and many thanks to all for tuning in. YouTube, we are coming heavy when I don't outpace Facebook. And for this, I want to say thank you. And to all we YouTubers, we're not subscribed yet, I'm asking you kindly subscribe. We are reshaping the platform to fit the time. Until I know say, but good things don't change and they change and election is coming to bear upon us. So we try for fit in that kind of category there. We've done well so far. Nobody no one tell we this. We can say and can I say goodbye for now? And like I say, we don't need for sign off because after I don't disappear off screen, the program will continue for run on a live loop Okay, because Naso been designed for today for run for this number of hours. Unfortunately, the program has come to an end. I salute you all, Sierra Leoneans. Keep the faith, whether you are for green, whether you are for red, whether you are for rainbow. Sierra Leone are the common denominator. We have to try and find a way around with many, many problems. Yes, they are perennial, but yes, we can together find solutions. If only we can bear and listen, left the arrogance and the ignorance, and let reason, common principle prevail. For now, can I take your leave? And I promise you guys, you will hear from me soon. Thank you and goodbye.